did that on purpose.
Well, welcome back to the Clock End Taproom. We are here with Nathan's little straw. We are. Let's just get straight into it because we don't need no intros, really, do we? Wrong one. Come up with that one. There we go. That's the one I was meant to come up with. Let's get straight into it then. Okay, Nath, when you saw the news the other day, you were obviously, I think you spoke about this last week, that we should be targeting him, didn't you? I lose track of what happens on here and what happens in our group chat and what happens everywhere. But I think last week you spoke about targeting him. What was your reaction when that Ornstein tweet came through? Well, I think it was Ornstein that sort of broke it, but you know, he's the one that everyone looks to anyway, isn't he? So what was your first thoughts?
Well, I was out. I was out with some friends. We decided to do a little coffee tour, and basically, I had my phone in my pocket because we were chatting and what have you, and my phone was just lighting up. Like my pocket was just constantly buzzing. I was like, "Have I brought the wrong thing out here or what?" Like, but I basically went to the counter to get another coffee, checked my phone, and I was like, I think I actually said "holy shit" whilst I was in the middle of the shop. Like everyone's looking at me. I was like, "Sorry, my bad." Yeah, just I said it last week just because I was like, at the end of the day, guys, you know, we're Premier League champions now. We need to be shopping in a champions market. You know, we're not penny pinching anymore. We've got all this money coming in. You know, let's go do it. Let's go do something big. You know, we need a left winger. In my opinion, the best left winger is Kvaratskhelia from PSG. No one's getting him, to be fair. So the next best, and it's quite close for me, is Vinny Jr. Makes sense. Go and get him. And then obviously, like you say, Ornstein tweets, and the fact that it was Ornstein as well who dropped the tweet, by the way, that for me gives it legs and gives it credit. You know, he never once mentioned Rodgers to Arsenal. Not once did he get involved in any of that. You know, and look what happened there. Yeah. So the fact that Ornstein's sort of, you know, broke it or was one of the first to break it, just the fact that he's even involved and picked it up, that suggests to me that there's more than something in it. It suggests to me that it's more than just exploring. I know he's used the word exploring, hasn't he? A deal, but that to me suggests that it's more than just a speculative sort of, can this happen? It's we're going to go and make this happen.
Well, I think that's what we see a lot with these Arsenal rumours at the moment, isn't it? We're thinking about making a bid, or you know.
I'm sure other fan bases will say this, but following transfers, on social media, it's an absolute minefield of shit, isn't it? It really is. You know, you've got to take everything with a pinch of salt. You know, there's so many Arsenal accounts saying this, that, and the other about this deal, about the Bruno deal, about, you know, the Zolis deal. You know, that was going on for months on Twitter, with everybody coming up with different numbers, different figures, different timelines. And you know, a deal like this goes beyond Arsenal and Vinny Jr. This is going to be one, if it happens, that's going to, you know, it's probably going to be the biggest one of the summer. Let's be fair. Just as it would be if it was another club involved. You know, just the fact that it's Vinny Jr. is, you know, it's not often you get a player of Vinny Jr.'s caliber moving with a transfer fee involved and things like that. But yeah, it's hard to keep track of what's real and what's not. And like I said, the fact that it's Ornstein that's come out with this one makes me believe even more than the Bruno stuff that this is the one that might actually happen. Now, I know that there's a long, long way to go, but yeah, I'm delighted. If we pull this off, this is massive. This is the biggest one we've ever done.
I think it would be. I mean, Fires, what was your reaction?
Same. I was make everything that Nathan said is right. He is top 2 in the world, right? He's Ballon d'Or kind of level of player, right? So we've often said it, like, is this where we're shopping now? Like, are we shopping in Villa and Newcastle, or are we shopping in Real Madrid and Barca and Bayern and and PSG. That's really where we want to kind of judge ourselves to, right? And champions of England, lads, it's not a joke. And then there's all this from last year, reporting about how much money we made last year and all that. So for Ornstein, and I think it was Gunnerblog and Ornstein, for them to, especially Ornstein, to come out and say that this has been agreed upon at all levels, it was something like that in the tweet, wasn't it? Makes you optimistic. It makes you. Arsenal wouldn't go and do diligence on a player and then agree upon it at all levels unless there was some inclination from the players' camp that this is a possibility. It may not be ever more than that, but it's a possibility because of his contract situation. I think, Dave, you mentioned something about his history with Mourinho recently. There are indicators that point towards it. And I make Nathan right, this is possibly a real club-changing deal for Arsenal, a real seminal moment in Arsenal's history. Because we don't shop like this. We never have. We never have. I mean, we bought Ozil. I think that some people will point towards the Ozil transfer. That was a signing meant to kind of put us back to where we belong, not kind of, real marquee business. He was surplus to requirements at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
But,
maybe the difference, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Madrid were fine with selling him, where I don't think they'd necessarily be fine with this one, would they?
Yeah, well, I think Wenger waited for that. He kind of waited for the dominoes to fall in place. I think they bought Bale that year, and then that kind of allowed them to needing the money back. I don't think Real Madrid need the money for Vinícius, and they definitely don't need to sell him for the kind of money you'd get him when he's only got 1 year left on his deal. But just to answer your question, I think it's fun. It's fun to be linked with. That means have a serious link with Vinícius Jr. And look, just by the nature of things, if something is big and if something is, sort of seminal, and so groundbreaking for an institution, for them to do it, it's unlikely in its nature. Do you know what I mean? Like, sign someone for 50 million, that's more likely than signing someone for 150 million. So, it's unlikely in its nature. So if it doesn't come off, it doesn't come off. You don't have a divine right to pull things off, lads. So, but the fact that I'm delighted at the ambition the club showing. Ornstein doesn't tweet that unless he's had a very, very strong indication that there's a possibility and that Arsenal will do everything they can to make Vinny come. Do you know what, lads? I'm all right with that. I mean, how the world's changed in the last 12 months, eh? So, I'm all right with that. And a special mention to all the other clubs in the Premier League. I see how you're all scared. You're all telling us we can't do it, and that's all because you're scared. You're shitting your pants that we get him. Because you may as well just give us the trophy now. You may as well just not turn up.
And to be fair as well, just to jump on the back of that would be true from an Arsenal perspective if someone else was going signing him, if it was like a City or a Liverpool or Chelsea, whoever it might be, I'd be sitting there thinking, shit, that is a unbelievable signing. It's a statement. It puts them into the title picture. We're talking about a player that can bring that sort of mentality, that sort of talent. That's what we're looking at, and that's why we're so excited, because even if he's not coming to Arsenal, if this is, like I said, if this is one of the other teams, we look at it and we go, wow, okay, they're serious. This is going to be, this is going to be dynamite kind of thing. So the fact that it's us being linked with him, whether it comes off or whether it doesn't, like I said, I think that's a great point. It's exciting. I can't remember the last time I was this excited about an Arsenal transfer. Probably the Ozil one. And I think that was mainly because, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, it kind of came a little bit late on in the window, didn't it? And kind of came a bit from nowhere. Yeah. It was a bit like, hang on a minute, what happened, kind of thing, Yep. So that was it was more of a like a whoa, okay, that's just come from nowhere kind of thing. Whereas this, I just think the scale of the player, the scale of the club, it's gonna, like I say, if this was even if this was someone else, it'd still shock the football world. It'd still maybe not shock, but maybe send shock waves and just be like, whoa, okay, this is a bit of a.
It'll be the biggest transfer in the world this season.
Yeah,
if you pull it off.
Yeah, probably for the next few. And we're talking about a transfer window where Man City have changed this window completely by spending 116 million on Anderson. That led to Chelsea spending 117 on Morgan Rogers. We're talking about that window that's already been changed. For the next few seasons because of the numbers going round.
Yeah.
But even if you take the numbers out of this, the numbers are going to be massive. We'll get onto that probably. But take the numbers out of it, and you just look at the names involved. Arsenal, Vinny Jr. That's crazy. That's crazy. But I'm interested to know what you think, Dave, because I know that you weren't mad keen on Vinny Jr.
Well, my first thought genuinely was, Nate's going to love this because we've been chatting about it quite a lot recently, on here and away from here. So first of all, genuinely was, oh God, it's actually going to happen. I'm going to find this out. But yeah, so I do have reservations. If we do sign him, I still think if I had to put my money anywhere, that this is all a bit of a contract thing and we'd eventually sign a new deal. But I think, as you've said, it does show that, when I think of the biggest signings we've ever made, let's say it is Ozil, like Sanchez potentially, they were players that the clubs were fine to let go, or even like Henry. When we signed him, he wasn't Henry at that stage. He wasn't the Henry that we ended up with, was he? He had a big reputation before, and then Bergkamp. Yeah, they're all players that, great players, but they weren't necessarily. We weren't signing them at this level, and personally, I don't think he necessarily is that level, but I think his reputation is that level, and like people think of him as that level, and that is sort of the big thing here. That the fact we are shopping in this place is massive, and I think that's sort of it. Yeah, I really do have reservations if we do sign him. I think there's issues with how he'd fit in. We'll talk about that in a bit, but I think just squad wise, as a player, I think there's issues with our team and him, but I think just as an overall thing, the fact that we're even linked with him properly, as you say, by Ornstein, where that isn't just a hand of Arsenal update where you don't really know 100% one way or the other and stuff like that. Is a proper transfer update, that I think, and that's the big thing with it, isn't it? It's a big deal. Yeah. Well, let's get on to some of them numbers then. Why don't you mention them before? I think it was Nath. I mean, some of the numbers it's in front around, like £150 million. I don't know if that would be the final number if it did happen. Obviously, 1 year left in this deal makes it a very weird negotiation, but 400 grand a week plus. I mean, let's start with the wages. I don't think that number's that crazy, really, is it? I think I've seen a lot of people point out that Ozil was on 350 grand a week a few years ago. It's not. To me, I don't think that number's wild. I really don't think it is too bad in this day and age. It's wild, 400 grand a week for anything, but in football terms, I don't think this is that bad, is it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think 400 grand is a big number. Let's not get away from that. That is an astonishing amount of money per week. That is an absolute insane amount of money. But so's 350 grand a week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you said, in context, in today's football, just in terms of the transfer fees that are going around as well, I know transfers and wages are different and separate, but again, I go back to the caliber. You said reputation. That's a great word to use. His reputation and things like that. I think 400 grand isn't as people are saying like it's going to obliterate the wage structure and the wage budget. Well, is it? Is it going to obliterate it?
I don't think it will.
No, I don't think it will. You look at the money that we've made this just this year. Never mind the previous years. Just this year alone, we've made so much money from competitions. Never mind everything else.
Yep.
So if there was ever a time from a financial perspective to do it, surely you cash in while you've got it. Don't.
Oh, sorry, go on.
You don't wait until 2-3 seasons down the line, do you? When you've potentially not got that income anymore because you've spent it on other players and stuff like that. it's there now, so go and do it now, kind of thing. This is the time to push and go all in. Not all in, because you're not going all in on Vinny Jr., are you? But you get what I mean. If there was ever a time to do it, it's now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But Havertz is on like 250 or more, I think, isn't he? That's sort of the numbers up for a renewal soon. If we renew him, he'll be on 300 plus. I don't think that's a big leap to then put Vinny on that number, is it really? I don't think that's I don't think, because that was one of my concerns with him as well, that he'd end up wanting 600 grand a week or something, and then all of a sudden you've got to pay Rice that, you've got to pay whoever else like 400, 500, and it just makes everything else harder. But 400 grand, I think, is very reasonable.
I think one of the other things that's been mentioned as well is something to do with image rights as well. Now I'm not massively clued up, so I'm fully taking this with a pinch of salt, but something to do with at Real Madrid, or I don't know if it's like a La Liga thing.
I think it is a La Liga thing. Yeah.
Is it a La Liga? Right. Okay. So
as far as I know, but I might be getting it wrong, but I think it's a La Liga thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the image rights, they can only have so much or something like that, which seems.
Yeah. I think I saw that he's on like 50-50 at Madrid.
Yeah.
Where I'd like to be on 100, wouldn't he, if he came here?
I think it's a lot more lenient over here, isn't it? And I think that's something that Arsenal wouldn't be too precious about if they wanted to say to him, look, we'll give you, like you say, if it's 100, if the number's 100%, we'll give you 100% of that, but that means you've got to take the pain over here in your wages and signing on fee and things like that. That's, there'll be all sorts of mechanics, what I'm saying, to be able to get into a number that is maybe uncomfortable for Arsenal, but sort of a meeting halfway.
Yeah, I think so.
That is how you'd negotiate it. But just to put a bit of sort of like a context with it. So with image rights, I think Vinny is he's either third or fourth in the world in terms of selling shirts just on his own. So shirts from Brazil, shirts from Real Madrid. So he's an economy in himself. So image rights, you can offset some money against it or whatever. But ultimately, lads, I mean, a lot of people sort of get into this and make things very complicated. Ultimately, wages, transfer fee, it all comes from the same balance sheet, right? So whether as we'll call it, X amount in transfer fee, Y amount in salary, whatever, signing on fee, bonuses, etc. Ultimately, mate, if we pay him $500,000 a week, that's £26 million a year. That's a bargain. So do you know what I mean? Like, we made £890 million last year, Arsenal.
I think.
See what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean, but I think the worry would be that we're looking at one player on 500 grand a week. You got the other guys that we've mentioned there. Havertz, Saka. They want to give Rice a new deal. That's got to be touching 300 if not more.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start adding them all together, it becomes a much bigger number, doesn't it? But I totally get what you're saying, Faz. 26 million a year on the back of us making 800. It's not dropping the ocean. It's still quite a big chunk, but it's not as bad as what people think it is.
No, I don't think. I don't even think it's a close, lads. I don't even think it's that much of a bother. If you can put Saka on 350, I think he's on something like that at the moment. If you can put Rice on, he'll probably be around about 350, I'd imagine. These figures are, and then if you say, for example, Vinny, you can have 25% of your image. We'll take 25% of your image rights. You can take 75%. Vinny is probably on all in over £1 million a week if he kind of breaks down his salary, so ultimately you've just got to look at a number that he's comfortable with in terms of the whole package. As fans, we'll break it down and look at salaries and how it will affect other players and how the club is run and stuff. But ultimately, it's a gross number that he wants to take home. The taxation laws will be different in Spain to here, so you've got to adjust all those things. So ultimately, it just comes down to, and And it's not gonna matter to Vinny's life that much if he's a few quid short here or a few quid more there. Makes no difference. I genuinely think at that kind of level, as long as we're in the ballpark of superstar, international superstar, I think it's about the sporting project at that point. And I think players like Vinny, and obviously, I don't know Vinny, I don't know anyone that knows him, but I'd imagine with someone like that, and it's the attraction of leaving Real Madrid. There's only one attraction to leaving Real Madrid, and that is, can I be the superstar in the team instead of a collection of superstars? It's the only reason you'll leave Real Madrid, for sporting reasons. Can I go and do what I do in a different club and be the man rather than be the collection of superstars? And I think on a sporting level, as long as we can convince him that that's what we plan to do here, that he will be the superstar. We've got Saka, we've got Rice and others, but you'll be the superstar, mate, if you turn up. I think we can do it. For me, the critical thing is, does he want to stay at Madrid? Because if he does, there's nothing you can do. No money makes that happen.
Yeah.
And I think if we're saying that Arsenal Football Club will sign Vinícius Jr., I said it when Pogba signed for like near on 100 million for Man United. They'll make that back. If you've got image right deals with him, you'll make that money back in no time. You'll make that money back at the Armory. Just selling loads of shirts and Vinny merchandise and whatever and whatnot. And that's just shirts, lads. I mean, his own image rights will cover like everything, headphones, whatever he does. And so, football ends up being the smallest part of what they earn. £25 million a year. They'll do £100 million deal with like, a boot deal with Nike or something. Do you know what I mean? That these things, they kind of endorsements. I mean, you guys will know as well from American sports, the endorsements are much bigger than the actual playing contracts they get. So, if we say, for example, if we renew with Emirates, then Emirates say, okay, well, we also sponsor Real Madrid. We will put in a roundabout way to make Vinny an ambassador, but you go and play for another Fly Emirates club. Sometimes these things are dictated that way, and I'm pretty sure that Adidas and things like that can get involved in, like, there's a lot of stuff there. So I'm not really, believe it or not, in these types of things, I'm not really that commercially minded. I think it's about the sporting project. And I think if you can convince a guy who clearly needs love, you don't have to be a psychologist to work out that he just wants to be loved and wants to be like the focus of everything and protected, and like all superstar divas want to be. If we can do that for him, if we can convince him that's there for him. But I suppose really it comes down to Dave's question, will he chase his fullback? The opposing fullback, will he chase him down? And he may not want to do that, and he's got license not to do that at Madrid. But I'm just convinced that it's down to sporting reasons, and we're going to be in the same ballpark as Madrid when it comes to money. So it's just going to come down to the fact that whether, and I don't even think it rests with Vinny like it didn't with Ozil. I think it comes down to Real Madrid.
Yeah. I think we saw just how much like the Ballon d'Or matters to him, didn't we? Was it 2-3 years ago now where it turned out he wasn't going to win it, and then sort of the whole of the Madrid team boycotted the awards and all of that nonsense. So, I think it shows probably where we are as a club that he would value. I think he really, 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 really wants to win a Ballon d'Or. And if Real Madrid win the Champions League and whatever, I don't necessarily think he'll be the pick. But if Arsenal win one next year, then he probably will be the Ballon d'Or guy. Well, only out of our team, maybe Rice, maybe Saka, but you'd think it'd be him. So I think it does show where we are as a club, and that can only be a good thing, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Well, you mentioned tracking his fullback. It is a big concern of mine that he isn't an Arteta guy. But, I mean, Nave, do you think we're going to have to just change the way we play to fit him in? Do you think that'll just naturally happen with a player like him on the left wing instead of, Trossard, Martinelli, whoever it might be?
Yeah, I think the other reason for the excitement might be, and I haven't seen this opinion anywhere, but the other part of the excitement might be that it might suggest a flex to a more attacking style of play under Arteta.
We've predicted as much, haven't we?
We've touched on it, haven't we? Just with the people that we were signing and who we were being linked with, we were a bit like it doesn't make any sense for us to continue playing the way that we played last season if these are the players that we're going for, which seemingly it does seem to be those players. So to me, I think all three of us agreed that it suggests that something's going to have to change. Like, look, Vinny's not going to track his man. It's as simple as that. He's just not going to do it, is he? And if he does do it, he'll do it half-assed, and it just won't work. And why on earth would you go and sign Vinny Jr. to go and play that role? You don't, do you? That's not the signing that you make. Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? But yeah, the fact, I know we'll talk about it after, but let's just say we sign Bruno from Newcastle, put him with Rice. Does that mean that we're going to go to sort of like a 4-2-3-1 formation with those two being quite rigid and saying you kind of stay at the halfway line and you're almost playing with a 6, and it'll still allow sort of Calafiore or Hincapié and Timber and whoever to bomb forward, but one of those two can just drop in and make it a 3 just to cover just while they get back. That's in my head as a Football Manager player. That's kind of where my head's going. If we sign these players, I don't know. But yeah, that it could suggest a shift in style, definitely. Which, let's face it, yes, we won the league. It wasn't pretty. We stumbled over the line. We wanted to see a little bit more excitement and what have you. So yeah, it'd be a good thing for me if we could find that balance of still being, defensively fantastic, which we will be with Saliba, Gabriel, and Raya. We're going to be, and then all our wing backs can play flipping centre back anyway. We're not short, are we? We've not even mentioned the likes of Zubamendi, who does a fabulous job holding. Lewis Skelly, when he came in at the back end last season, did a fabulous job as well. So yeah, we could see a change.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that frustrates me when I hear people talk about the people that will defend the defensive football. I think they talk like there's only two options. You're like all out attack or all out defense.
Yeah,
I don't think any of us need to see us go. Just gung ho old school Brazil team. You score 3, we'll score 4. No one's not calling for that, are they? Just something a little bit better than what we've seen, because the attack has been dreadful, hasn't it?
You've got to remember as well, and I'm not saying other teams haven't had this. Just this is the best example I can think of. Is we had that with the Invincible team. We had that real good blend of Sol Campbell and Torre at the back. Really strong. We had strong fullbacks. We had a really good goalkeeper. And then we had sort of like Patrick Vieira, Gilberto Silva, really, solid base of defensive midfielders who could go forward and attack as well, quite well. And that allowed the likes of Perez, Lundberg, Omri and Bergkamp to just go and do what they wanted to do. It took the shackles off, but we still had that defensiveness. Like you said, Dave, there's no reason. It isn't all-out defend or all-out attack. There is a blend. It is very difficult to achieve, but it is doable. It is doable.
Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, it's just a fan thing, right? Did we not just watch the World Cup, where like Spain just didn't give anyone the ball? So how are you going to attack them? Just there are ways of playing elite football where you're just if you're so good going forward. But they don't want a bit of you, mate. They're not attacking. They're just not taking the risk that they're going to come out at you. So, the best teams we've ever seen in our club have all played against low blocks because they're so good. It's just not. If you play football, you just realise that's just what people do, right? Naturally, if someone's better than you at something, you're just going to be a bit more apprehensive about stuff. And as you say, I don't buy this argument about all out defense or all out attack. It's just when you're really good at football. That's just what happens to other teams, doesn't it? They fall back into their shell. They're risk averse, and That's normal. And like the whole thing about like last year, our best players were at the back. Our most consistent players were at the back. So it was almost logical to depend on what you're really good at. Right. And I think just because of who we're looking at now, I think Saliba's injury plays into this a little bit as well. That we're just not going to be able to do that this year. We're not going to be able to recreate that. So what do you do then? And also teams work you out the following year. Yeah. And so I think to stay one step ahead, we go and sign someone like Vinny Jr. I think what's overlooked here as well, everyone talks about his supposed attitude and his kind of like his shenanigans at his club and like sort of being a diva and stuff. What people forget is that if he comes into Arsenal Football Club, into our team, he's recognized as one of the world's best players. They will automatically respect him. Just like they did with Ozil, mate. You know, what Ozil did tactically later and what we saw on the pitch. But the whole world, I remember Rooney was at Man United at the time and he was like, why didn't we get Ozil? How did Arsenal get Ozil? Because there's a respect amongst your peers, right? And Vinny is one of those players, mate, where one of those unicorns where you adjust around him. If you can buy him, you adjust around him. In a very different way, the profile of the signing is similar to Declan Rice insofar as that when we signed Rice, it lifted the whole team. His performance has lifted the whole. It just happens to be that he's a very responsible footballer. But if Declan Rice was a striker, they would be like, mate, don't worry about it. Just do what you do at the front. Like, we'll get you the ball. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there is that kind of respect amongst peers. And I think what better player in the world, apart from, and I make Nathan right, Kvaratskhelia, what better player in the world to like balance out the right side for our left side to actually be able to do something now? Be amazing. It'd be amazing. So any questions about tactics, about finance, honestly, I think they're just a sideshow to what you'd acquire. And what you'd acquire is quite possibly one of the top 3 players in the world.
I think that's what you said there was a good point as well, that it will make everyone else's job around him easier. You know, Saka won't be getting, well, he might still get it, but then it'll mean Vinny's not got 2 players on him because Saka has, or, you know, one way or another, they're not going to be able to like double mark everyone.
Exactly.
We see it so often in games that where Saka gets the ball, you've got 2 defenders on him immediately, and it's just a killer. It's so hard for him to. Yeah. It's incredible he does as much as he does, to be honest, with how teams play against Saka, because
exactly
they know he's our only threat going forward, don't they?
Right, and he's and of all the players we've got, lads, and we've often said this, he's the only one that will take someone on. The only one. Nobody else in the team does that. And we're good at it. We recycle the ball, we go again, we probe, we keep possession. But the one player they know to double up on is on Saka, because Saka will try to beat his man. He's got another option in him. And what Vinny does is, and, you know, I'm happy to argue this point, he's better than Saka at that, at leaving someone behind and just going past them. That's how Vinny's built his game. So there's no way on this earth, lads, that we're going to sign someone of Vinny's stature and then say, well, you've got to fit into the way we play. No. I think it's give and take, lads. I think it's give and take. I think the level of players we have been signing, yes, you can have that kind of, you've got to fit in the way we play. I just don't think you get to that upper echelon, even if it wasn't like now. If this conversation was 20 years ago and you went to go and sign top players in the world. Now, I'm not saying these players compare with each other. I happen to think they don't. But if you went 20 years ago and you said, right, I'm going to go and sign Zinedine Zidane, you don't tell Zidane how to play in your team. You play around Zidane. And I think genuinely, Vinny Jr. is one of those players. I would, you know, just from a tactical point of view, I would love to have another player on his team that requires a double team like Saka does, because we don't have that. Nobody in our team gets double teamed apart from Saka. So to have that kind of stretch on teams, it will free Saka up. Vinny will produce what he has to produce, mate. And I like, you know, it would be era defining if we got him, just from every perspective.
I think that's right. Well, let's move on to the other player we've been heavily linked with in the last few days. Bruno. I mean, a very different signing, but also could be just as big, I think, for us.
Yeah. Make Arsenal Brazilian again.
Yeah. It's we'd have would be 50% Brazilian basically in the squad at that stage. I mean, it's looking at what.
But yeah.
No, yeah, not the best time to be going full Brazilian, is it? I suppose. But,
no.
But it's looking something like 70, 80 million, somewhere in that range, gets it done with different sort of add-ons, all that sort of stuff. Fies, what do you think of that? Just as a pure value for Bruno.
Yeah, something's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it, mate.
Yeah,
I don't tie into all these things like, but they paid this for that and he paid that for this, and like whatever. If Tottenham weren't about to get relegated, they wouldn't, and if Tottenham were another team in Europe, they wouldn't be paying 100 million for Tonali. If an Italian team went in for Tonali, they'd pay like 40 million and a bag of spaghetti or something. I don't know, but it'd be something like that. It wouldn't be the 100 million quid. The Premier League is a monster on its own for transfer fees and stuff, and we don't sell to each other very often. So there's probably about 10% that's added on for you just want to be a wanker to the other team in the league. You know what I mean? 10% Pratt tax, 10% Pratt tax or something. or a Liberty tax for taking one of our players. But I like him. I've liked him since he was about when he went from Brazil to, I think he went to France, to Lyon, and I liked him then. And some of the good lads on Twitter were like, we should have just got him then, and we should have. I think Edu went to Brazil and everyone got really excited that we were going to get Bruno Guimarães, and then we just got pictures of Edu massaging his wife's feet. I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? And that was it, and a barbecue. Mate, we thought you went to sign someone. He's apparently on a romantic break, but the Bantu era, what a time. So he ended up going there. He became a really good player at Newcastle, better player at Newcastle. We're probably about a year, 2 years after I'd have liked to have bought him, sorry. But I will be very happy to have him, mate. One, because the amount of tears from Newcastle fans would be fantastic. And secondly, he's probably the only player out of Man City. Man City probably only got about 2 players as well that I'd want. Everyone else is kind of like whatever. We've got better players. There's only about 3 or 4 players in the Premier League that would better us, and I think he would better us during the course of the season. On an individual game, we've got players like Bruno Guimarães, so it's not the end of the world if we don't get him. But I think that kind of added level of penetration, responsibility, captain, good on the ball type footballer, you can't have enough of those. And I think it'd be a really good signing for us to just say, okay, food chain Newcastle, get in line, we'll have him, thanks. And then yes, but I think with it's probably what Real Madrid are thinking about us, right? Probably just going, just wait, Arsenal. If we don't want him, you can have him. Otherwise, food chain. I'd be really happy if we signed him. Really happy. I suppose the obvious one is because we want to rest Rice a little bit, but I think he complements Rice perfectly. And we need a 4th midfielder. So, yeah, I'll be delighted if we get him, lads. Good player.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I really think he is the perfect midfielder, 4-hour midfield. He can play both roles very well. I think we spoke about it a little bit last week. I don't think he necessarily raises the ceiling of our team that much, but I think he really does raise the floor, which is
it's a good point.
Pretty big thing.
Yeah.
Nate, I think you're a little bit skepticism about whether this happens. What are your thoughts on the deal?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think I think it happens. I'll be honest, I do think it happens, but it's just been rumbling on for a bit too long for my liking. I understand that you've got the World Cup, and he needs to have a rest, like everybody who's been to the World Cup and things like that. And I think I saw today that Martinelli and Gabriel are due to link back up with the squad before the Girona game for us. So, excuse me, I'm just assuming that Bruno is also due back, so that might speed things up a bit.
Yeah, because they went out fairly early in the end, didn't they? They didn't.
Yeah.
Make it too deep in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we're very set on a value for a player, which is the right way to do it. And I just feel like Newcastle are very set on their value for the player. And even though the value is close, it wouldn't surprise me if we tried to call Newcastle's bluff, and also Newcastle were just too stubborn to meet in the middle. Do you know what I mean? It feels like both parties would be stubborn enough to go, us turn around to Newcastle and go, no, you can fuck off. We're not dancing to your tune. And Newcastle turn around and go, well, that's absolutely fine. We'll keep the player, no problem. I can genuinely see that happening. But yeah, in terms of if we can sign him, yeah, I think he'd be great sign. I actually think he brings something that we don't have at the moment, which is that nastiness, that proper. I haven't got another word for it. He's an arsehole, isn't he? If he's playing against you, you hate Bruno Guimarães, don't you? He's an awful.
I currently hate him.
Exactly that. I can't stand the guy. I think he's awful. But if he plays for your team, you put him on your shoulders and you throw him out on your front line, and he's the man in it. He's like, you get behind him. It's almost like, it's the same with Arteta, isn't it? Everybody hates Arteta because of his antics. If he was a manager at another team, I'd hate Arteta for his antics, but he's not. He's my manager, and I fucking love him. I'm gonna push him to the front and be like, nah, this is my guy, kind of thing. I totally get the hate. I completely get it, because it's exactly the same with Bruno. I hate him as a player, but he's so talented. That's probably what feeds into it as well. It's the fact that he's such a good player. He's fantastic, a brilliant player. The thought of him and Rice together in midfield, that's genuinely scary,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just got this little. I think it'll happen. I'm on that side of the fence. I think it will happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if Newcastle and Arsenal were just too stubborn with each other and stood by the principles and both walked away from it.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a conspiracy theory about this, lads.
Go on.
If you'd like to indulge me for a second.
Yeah, shoot.
I think for players we're replacing in the squad, so this is Vinny aside now. Vinny's a deal that stands on its own. I think for players in our squad, we're doing a 1-in, 1-out thing. Like, we had Zolis sitting there waiting to sign for the Arsenal, but we couldn't do it until Trossard signed for the Besiktas. And I think with Bruno, we're waiting for a player to, whether it's do you know what? He's never played, so I don't even remember his name now. Norgard. Someone like that to leave before we go in for him. And I think if we're sitting there as a club and thinking we might be able to do Vinny Jr., we're going to hold back on negotiating for Bruno. The moment we get clarification on something big like Vinny, I think we'll bridge that gap, because we can't not sign anyone. That would be silly. So I think we'll stump up what Newcastle want at a particular point. Now, the inverse of that's true as well. If we do then get a green light for Vinny, for example, then we'll be a lot more stubborn in terms of dealing with Newcastle. And then I think Nathan might be right. We might struggle at that point. But I think I think that currently for like squad, I think we're doing a 1-in, 1-out type of thing, and I think we're looking for someone to show some interest in, or even have any indication that someone may take. And it might be a sad one, lads. It might be like an Ethan Nwaneri type situation where we get a good offer for him, and we go, do you know what? Just get Bruno in, bollocks, and then we'll bridge the gap ourselves. So, hope I'm wrong. But I think that might be the case here. Because if we really want Bruno, like we wanted Rice, you just put your foot down on the accelerator, you get it done. And we're not exactly not in the ballpark, are we? We're quite close.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. The report yesterday or the day before, I sort of lose track of when these things happen now, but it looked like there's about 10 million in it between the valuations, which to me is just probably about structure of a deal, you know, whether that gets made up in add-ons, you know, if we win the Champions League or something like that. I think a lot of it for Newcastle is probably about optics as well. You know, they've lost a lot of players in the last 12 months. Losing another player on top of that doesn't look good. So if they, you know, they need from their end for it to look, you know, like they've got absolutely every penny out of it, don't they? So I get why it's probably not going to be a quick deal.
Yeah.
You mentioned players going out. I mean, I saw just before we started tonight, I saw a tweet saying, you know, I can never say his name properly. Nwaneri looks like he's going to maybe still be part of the squad. You know, Arteta seems to.
I'll be delighted if he stays.
Wants to play more.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, Odegaard is someone we speculated that could be sold this summer. You know, in the early podcast that we did, Lewis Skelly was someone who could be sold, but there's been absolutely nothing. It seems on outgoings of any sort of real significance, does there? So, I mean, you mentioned that it's sort of one in, one out potentially, but really, who is going out the door? Because at the moment, it doesn't seem to be any real movement on that, does there? And once again, it's us not being able to sell players.
Yeah. I will not rate Berta. I don't care about spinning plates. I don't care about his Hermes belt that he wears with absolutely every outfit that he has. I don't care about any of those things, mate. Buying players, honestly, like, who gives a shit? Anyone can buy a player, mate. What I want to know is, can you sell a player? Because other clubs are doing it, easy as pie. What's the problem with our players? Are they on too much salary? Then if they're on too much of a salary, take a hit on the transfer fee. You can still make them go, right? Right? Because you're going to save the money, as we spoke earlier. You know, it's a package. It's not just the transfer fee. You're getting the wages off your books and whatever and whatnot, right? But so I don't rate him until he can show me he can sell a player. Because you can sign it. You know, how difficult was it to sign Zolis? How difficult was it to sign Gyökeres? These aren't difficult deals, lads. You know, because all his job isn't to draw up the contract. His job's to go and say, how much? Okay. How much did the agent want? Right, this is the deal. What do you want to do, lads? And then present a few deals, and then, you know, I suppose Arteta will sign off and whatever. But until he can actually sell a few players, I'm not going to rate him. I'm not going to say whether he's doing a good job or not, because we've spoken about it before. Like, we're stockpiling players now. If we buy Bruno, which I assume we will, that pushes everyone else down. They're not going to play, lads. Do you know what I mean? And if they're not playing, their value is just dipping out. We've still got Reece Nelson training at the club. We've still got Fabio Vieira playing at the club. All you're waiting now is for Arteta to say, don't need to sign anyone. They're training like beasts. Get them in the team. Like, no. Sell. So it may just be that we sell a few players and then we just say, all right, go on, there you go. Go on, Newcastle. Give us the player. So I make you right. I am confident of this one being done. And if you want to ask me a tactical question about Bruno, I think he's more important to Arsenal than a superstar signing would be, because he just makes, as you said, he raises the floor. He makes sure everything knits together. He offers so much, and like he covers so many different positions for us on the pitch and roles and responsibilities. I just think we're in this stage now where we're kind of thinking, okay, what is the final price that Newcastle want? And because he's not going to do Isak and go on strike and stuff, the selling club can sit there and say, well, you know, we've got a couple of years on his deal. He's not agitating for a move. Let's hold out. But ultimately, I think our good friend and enemy of the podcast, Kia Jarabchin, will pressure Newcastle into getting the deal done. So, fingers crossed, lads.
All right. Well, one last one before we move on to the last bit of this episode. Say we sign both these two players. We're currently third favourites for the Champions League right now. PSG at 5-1, us and Bayern 6-1, so joint second favourites. I mean, if we sign both these players, do we become favourites for the Champions League?
No.
Agreed. if you've won it twice in a row, that automatically makes you favourites for it. I'm not afraid of Bayern, but PSG are still a superb team. I've learned from my mistake of backing everybody apart from Spain in the World Cup, and they are an excellent team. Are PSG, and they are the best team in Europe, so we'll give them that. But I genuinely think they don't like playing us, PSG or Bayern or Barca or Madrid. I don't think anybody likes playing us. So we are in that group of teams. So I make them right. And what it does do though is it sends a massive, as I said, it will be the biggest transfer this year, and it will be the biggest transfer maybe for the last 5 years that's taken place internationally in football. And if we do that, you better believe that we're going to be feared. So yeah, on the day, who knows? We took them to penalties, lads.
Yeah. So maybe they are the ones to push over the edge, but who knows? Well,
special mention though. Are we going to discuss my super insider knowledge about who I said we're going to sign? Are we going to mention good old Ferran Torres?
Yeah,
that's gone a bit quiet, hasn't it?
I mean, I think it was within about an hour of us finishing last week. I was just flicking through Twitter and I saw a mention of him to Arsenal. I was like, no, this can't happen. But...
So I've got a new one this week.
Oh no! Hey.
I think that there is trouble afoot at Bayern Munich and Musiala. I've just been reading some really weird stories. I'm thinking, why would they come up? Why would Musiala even be in a discussion with anybody else about a move? Like, surely Bayern would. He's a German international. He's a great player. Why would he be in? But there's like loads of rumors about him going out on loan, trying to find himself again, and this kind of thing. And I was thinking, hold on a minute, wasn't he just injured and that was it? So watch this space, man, because that's a market opportunity. If he decides that Bayern aren't showing the confidence in him to stick by him, next thing you know, £100 million, they'll part with it. You know, you never know, lads.
Never know. Well, let's move on. Obviously, we've had a lot of debate in our group chat, Nath. You know, I think if we don't do anything, I'm fine with us not going for like Rodgers. I'm fine with us not going wild in this market that has been just insane and sort of waiting it out and hoping something comes to us. But I mean, say we don't sign anyone. Say with this squad, we start the season with this squad as it is now. Are we favourites of the league still? Do you think, Nath?
I do think that. And the only reason that I think that is because of, I think I mentioned it last week, it's just the upheaval that's going on around us. You know, City, new manager, spending big money on players. Liverpool, new manager, they've got to replace Salah. And I'm going to say Andy Robertson because I think he was a big part of what they did. He was a very good player. And obviously, new signings for them. You know, Carrick gets his first full season, gets a transfer summer all to himself. There's just upheaval at Chelsea are just signing every man and his dog. You know, so I think
we didn't mention Chelsea with Bruno, did we? But with the size that they're going for, it'd make a lot of sense for them to swoop in, wouldn't he? You know, sorry to go back to that. But yeah,
not anymore, lads. They've just gone in for Jordan Henderson on a free.
Well, no, that's what I mean. Yeah, they're looking for a leader.
Basket case.
Yeah.
Fucking basket case of a club there. And Danny Welbeck.
Yeah. Big Welbs.
God no, sorry.
No, it was a valid point. To be fair, I just think that the position that we're in as a club, from top to bottom, I think we're in a really good place. I think we've gone through all of our hurt and pain and drama. And I think we're just well set. We're ready to go right now. You know, if the season kicked off now, we'd be like, yep, let's go, no problem. I don't agree that we shouldn't sign anybody. You have to improve. Like Five said, you get worked out the season after. Do you know what I mean? You get one season to do one thing, you will get worked out in the next season, and that's up and down the league. You know, you look at teams that have come into the league. You know, I'm looking at Sunderland this season, for example. Are they going to get found out? You know, we've seen what they're all about now. So can they now flex to do something different to have as much success? It's exactly the same for us. For everybody. But yeah, I just think because everybody else is in such, not turmoil, but there's been a lot of big, heavy upheaval, I think they need at least, bare minimum 3 months to get going. Whereas I think we can hit the ground running straight away. And that's not to say that one of these clubs might absolutely smash it. Iriol coming in at Liverpool, for me, I think that's an amazing signing for Liverpool. And I think they're one of the clubs that can hit the ground running and go for it. Man City, I don't think it matters who you put in charge. That group of players can hit the ground running, especially with Haaland up front. So, it's well within the remit that one of those teams could set off flying. I just think on paper, we're in the best spot to go for it straight away.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's even that we shouldn't sign someone. I'm just happy to, we've got our number. That's what it's going to be. I'm fine with it. I think there needs to be a little wiggle room in that. But yeah, I think that was my main thing with it. I'm fine with not going mental on players that just aren't worth it, really. Faz, what about you? Do you think we have to get some business done?
Yeah, I think so. I think we will get some business done. I think we will get some business done. I just think it demands it. I think if you're elite level institution at anything, you've got to invest in what you've got and build again. Because the idea shouldn't be just to what's it called? The idea shouldn't be to just repeat what we did last year. It's to better ourselves last year. And that's what Arteta's shown. For all his faults, it's what he's shown year after year after year. We've got better. We've solved problems. We've gone again. We've solved problems. We've gone again. Okay, other problems arise, but and I think the intention with Rodgers, the intention with Vinny, intention doesn't win you anything. But then you're shopping in a much more elite place. Supply and demand just dictates there's not that many world-class left wingers. So and they don't play for shit clubs. So you're just not going to be as easy to get. So I just don't think we can be in that way sort of demanding. Bruno, I think will get done. And I think if we don't get someone to basically replace Martinelli, I would be all right with us just waiting and just saying, okay, cool, fine. Whatever it is, we'll go again. We'll see what it's like next year, or Christmas. And I think we're good enough to retain it. Whether we're good enough to do more in the Champions League, I don't think so. That's a different kettle of fish. You need something a bit extra, a bit X factor to go a bit further in the Champions League. And for us, further would be a kick or two. Do you know what I mean? Like that's literally the margin we're talking about. So I wouldn't be to answer your question. I think I make us favourites for next year, clearly, and for the Champions League, we need a bit more. And Bruno might be that, lads. Bruno might be that. Yeah. But if we get no one, I won't be happy, mate. Because what were you doing, mate? What were these plates you were spinning? You're telling me the champions of England couldn't sign anyone? That's the 30 million. It's the most Wenger. It's the most Wenger post-championship season that we'll ever have under Arteta. We won the league and we decided to sign a nobody for 35 million quid, which in the early 2000s would have been a 16 million pound Wenger signing that no one heard of. So I would be disappointed, but yeah, I think we get Bruno. And I think I'll be happy with that.
Do you think that will be sort of the only sort of big signing we make?
Yeah. I can't see Real Madrid, and this is the thing about the whole Vinny thing that we maybe touched on a little bit, but I think nobody's talking about, and it's the fact that Real Madrid don't want to let Vinny go.
Yeah,
they just don't. Why would you? Why would Mourinho, Perez, all of them? They could probably get 200 million out of Saudi Arabia next year if they got him on a new contract. Why would they let him go? So I think Real Madrid hold all the cards with Vinny Jr. And I think the only signing we make this year that kind of gets us not out of my seat, but at least gets me to notice will be Bruno Guimarães. Yeah, I think that's the only one we go for. There's too much noise about it for it not to happen now, I don't think. Newcastle don't hold all the cards with Bruno. I think his agent does. And we are only like if this was Vinny and they said you've got to go another 20 million, that could be in add-ons, that could be in anything, right? You've got another 20 million to get him, Arsenal do it. It's because it's Bruno and it's Newcastle, and we've kind of got this agent saying you could do this, you could do that. We had an agreement from last year if they don't qualify for the Champions League, that kind of thing. We're trying to be a bit, economical about it. But the moment we decide that we want Bruno, like we want him, he's ours. Because all we've got to do is go and do what we did to West Ham. How much is it? 100 million. There you go, mate. So, that's my thinking on it.
Well, do you think we sign either of these players? Do you think we sign both? Do you think we sign none of them?
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely don't know. I really don't. I think the most likely outcome is we sign Bruno or we don't sign Vinny. I do think that is the most likely outcome. I do think there's a world where we sign both of them. I just think for me, whilst Bruno's a fantastic player and, like you said, raises the floor and all that kind of stuff, I'd be nowhere near upset. I'd be delighted to sign him. I think if we still don't go and fix that left side, as well as letting Trossard go, this Zolis bloke might turn out to be one of those 35 million signings that turns into a 70 million pound player. He genuinely might. I've not seen anyone say a bad word about him, so he could be that player for all we know. But we don't know. That's the thing. So I think if we went into the season not signing, not necessarily Vinny Jr, but like someone big for that left wing, because it's the biggest, most glaring problem. We all said that.
Yep.
I don't know. I'd be a bit disappointed that we'd not managed to pull that off. And I get that market, that left wing market, is on its arse. There is not a lot of option outside of the absolute elite players. I totally get that. And again, you never know. Outside of those top elite players, we might have signed the next best one. I'm not saying we have. I don't know enough about this guy. I've not seen enough about him. And let's face it, the Premier League is a completely different kettle of fish. I really like Martinelli, but I've seen enough of him to know that that's not the answer anymore.
Yeah.
Unless there's a style change dramatically. But even then, he's kind of a 5 shots, 1 goal kind of guy. I need more than that.
What happens, lads? We'll put a question to both of you. What happens if we don't get? Because I make you right, Nathan. There's about 2 or 3 players in the market that we could reasonably sort of get to improve our left side, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for improvement, and we're looking for a world-class player. So you've got left wing. If we went through them, there's a possibility, a remote one, but still a possibility of Vinny. There's Barcola, for intensive purposes. Liverpool talking, but I think they want like 150 million for him.
Yeah.
I
mean, talk about how like Man City and Chelsea and all that they've done as a reset. That was 140 million was the minimum they're looking at or something, wasn't it? Which is so
it's insane, right? So you've got Rodgers, who wasn't even a left winger. That was like the domestic option we had, and I don't think there's anyone else. I actually don't think. That's why I've kind of just made up this Musiala thing earlier. But like, but jokes aside, I bet it happens. Because I just don't think there is. You're talking about 3 players.
Yeah.
And like, if we're not gonna pay 117 for Rodgers, I don't think we pay 150 for Barcola. What's Barcola done to deserve that? He doesn't start games for PSG. Forrest Kelly is the starting left winger for them. He comes on like to, he's like the Will Tord in their team. Like, we're paying 150 million pound for him. What for? So I don't get. So I'm not. I've got to be fair with the club and just say, look, I just don't think there's. I think there's a dearth of talent on the left wing in the world, and I just don't think the player that improves us is there. I'm all for taking a gamble. Like I said, if you just look at what 35 million pound meant 10 years, 20 years ago, that's a 15 million pound player, mate. We've just bought for the left wing. He might come good, he might not. But other people have said it as well. Like, he's the kind of player that would have gone to Brighton, done really well, and then Chelsea bought him for like 80 million. So, or he could just be nothing. And then, we've taken a punt on it. I like it. It's fine by me. There will be, and we'll come back to this another time, I suppose. But if we don't get anyone, and we get Bruno, that's for a different reason. But if we don't get anyone in the attacking part of the pitch, the focus on Arsenal playing a more expansive game will be massive, mate. Massive, because we've got a glaring problem on the left-hand side. It's just not productive. Doesn't do anything for us, really. So the focus then on Bukayo, Kai, Gyökeres, and everyone else for that matter, I think the focus on them is intense to make up that, which it was last year, right? And without Trossard, I think that's a bit of a problem. And then you add in Madueke and people like that, and it just fucking doesn't bear thinking about. So there is, as much as I said that I'll be okay if we don't sign anyone, we're in a bit of a pickle. We're in a bit of a pickle with it because the players aren't there, lads. Like, I mean, there is a Rafael Leao shout, which is like everyone who plays PlayStation really likes him. I just don't think that's reasonable, lads. I just don't think in the real world that even works. But then who else is there? There really isn't anyone. Which then, Ferran Torres, mate, it works.
But I think that's sort of what a lot of my argument's been about on this left wing. I think there's a lot of players that are going to cost a lot of money that I'm not actually sure any real improvement on what we've got. And that comes from a place I like Martinelli probably more than both of you two, I think. Yeah. So I'm a Marseille fan. I don't think he necessarily fits what we want him to do, but I also think it does fit in a way because I think that is what Arteta wants him to do. I think he wants him to play almost like a wing back. So
undeniable.
Yeah, I think so. I am more of a Martinelli fan than both of you. I think probably so that probably plays into it as well. But yeah, I don't want to spend 150 million on Barcola or whoever it might be, who I'm not even sure they make us any better. And that's my thing of sort of I don't know if I'd rather do that or nothing.
I'd rather do nothing.
Is a safer option. Yeah, save it for maybe next year, so something else comes available. But it's
let me ask you guys the actual question I wanted to ask you. So tell me this: if Barcola, say we get Barcola in, right, and we spend a king's ransom for him because we're desperate and there's no one else, does he outscore Martinelli next year? Assuming Martinelli stayed and played the whole season left wing, do you think do you think Barcola outperforms Martinelli in our team in the Premier League if you had them in a head-to-head race?
Yeah.
I
Dave?
think it'd be tight. I think
Nathan's
last season was a particularly low season, of output for Martinelli. I'm not saying he's ever been prolific, but before that, it's always sort of been 6 to 10 goals without looking it up. Somewhere there, I think he had one good season where he scored a few more. But
yeah,
to me, when I watch Barcola, and this is harshing him with how we talk about this person on this podcast, I just see another Madueke where it's a lot of stuff that he does well. No, but he does a lot of stuff well, and then it gets to that final bit, and I think
he's killed him.
It's like he doesn't quite know what to do at the end of it. So the amount of times I've seen him blast one out, or I don't know, it just feels like I think he's better than Madueke. I'm not saying that, but that sort of style where I think he does a lot of good stuff, but he's still missing a lot of stuff that you'd want from someone you're paying.
See, I'm not sure.
Close to world record sort of fees at that stage, aren't you, for him?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure he outperforms
I'm not sure.
Martinelli in terms of output. I genuinely think he's a better player than Martinelli, but I don't know if he does that in his first season. Young lad, does he outperform Martinelli? What do you think, Nathan? Because you were quite straight and just said, yeah, he will outperform him.
He will. He outperforms it. It's not even. I don't even think it's close. I really don't. I just.
Yeah. So would you spend the 150 on him?
No, that's where it becomes an issue. Is the money side of it? If we take figures out of it, and we go Martinelli versus Barcola, it's Barcola.
Okay.
Do I spend 150 million on Barcola? No, he's not worth it. He hasn't done enough.
what number does it for you then for Barcola? Because remember, it's minus what we're gonna. If we get Barcola, Martinelli's gone.
Yeah.
So we'll get something. We'll recover something from Martinelli because we're not going to have 3 left wingers.
It's a tough question to ask because it's what do I value him at versus what's actually realistic. You know, I'd be comfortable taking the risk of dropping 80 million on Barcola, given his age profile, and I think he's got a very high ceiling. He's certainly got a higher ceiling than Martinelli because Martinelli should now be in that ceiling. He should now be producing, and he's not. He's
he's in the basement, mate. Yep.
He's regressing, if anything.
Yeah, he's in the garden.
So, 80 million, I go, okay, it's a risk. It's a risk, but I can see the potential. I can see the potential.
They won't even pick up the phone. Yeah, they're not going to pick up the phone.
That's what I mean. That's what.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to the Anderson deal of 116 million. That has completely and utterly wiped the floor with any realistic transfer fees. And that's kind of what
60.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's not just the Anderson deal, but the Anderson deal was the one where everyone went, "What the f is going on?" kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, nobody saw a deal going back to Villa, did they? Though with between them and Chelsea, that Garnacho, and I don't think that really counts. No, I think that's a little bit of balancing the books up with that Rodgers number, isn't it? I think that's a little PSR deal, that one. So I think we should be judging too much off of that.
I think it falls back into the Arsenal stuff as well, where we have a value for a player, where a month ago that value would have been right.
Yeah,
but we're now a month on, and things have happened where all the values have just gone skew with. So, whilst I get what you guys are saying about, I don't want to go and drop this money on this player. Well, that means you're not signing anybody. And that's probably going to be.
It's a really good observation, mate.
And that's going to be the next 2 or 3 transfers minimum. Windows, sorry, minimum.
We're not going to get the player we want for less than 100 million quid.
The values have moved on, whether we like it or not, and it's just whether or not the club want to factor in that risk. No, every transfer is a risk. Every single one of them.
We bring up, because this season we bring up Anderson and Rodgers, rightfully so. But look at last year, what Liverpool did. They spent 130 on what's his name, 140 on what's his name, and almost 100 on Ekitike, and that had already sent the market into a mad place.
My head came off when Liverpool spent 35 million on Andy Carroll. That's when it all started for me. That's the one transfer that I can go back to and go, that's when it all went to shit.
That was mad, wasn't
it? Unreal. At the time, that was unreal.
Wasn't it?
When you consider that an extra 15 million, was it, got you Fernando Torres?
Yes. Well, they used the money on, wasn't it?
They bought Luis Suarez for the same money.
Do you know what I mean? This is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about.
Who was a sensational footballer, a bit racist and a bit bitey for my liking, but apart from that, he was a sensational footballer. Yeah,
and his fault.
Was perfect.
No, but
they bought him for the same amount of money, which is a perfect example of why England's just a mad place, mate, when it comes to transfer fees.
Absolutely,
an absolute mad place. But look, lads, I mean, so if we want an upgrade on the Martinelli, we've got to spend over 100 million. I think. Do you think? I suppose. Look, we could possibly, end this segment with this though. Do you think we're all in for Vinny then? And if it's Vinny or bust?
But it honestly, genuinely makes the most sense.
Yeah. It does, doesn't it? I think it does.
I know that's a daft thing to say, given the numbers being mentioned, but just given everything that we've spoke about tonight, in this moment, where the club are at, where Vinny's at, where the transfer market's at, it makes sense.
I'll make you right, Nathan. Dave, are you aboard the Vinny train?
As you know, I have my reservations, but when you look at the other players, like when we were speaking about the other day, Nave gave a list of, I think it's about 5 players. I can't remember who they were, but it's like Marco, who else would have been on there? But all of them were like massive risks for me. Yeah. At least with Vinny, there's some sort of track record, and it's not necessarily about his play as such that the issues, where all the others I think that you're taking a gamble on ceiling. So Vinny at a similar sort of number to some other players. It's just, to me, a no-brainer. And the wages are obviously going to be very, very different for some of them players. But
yeah.
I think just transfer fee alone, Vinny makes the most sense as a. I think he is still a gamble, personally. I don't think he's a.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a sure thing, but I think he's less of a risk than the others.
I go back to what I said before, mate. Every transfer for every club in this transfer window is now a risk because of the money that's being thrown around. Every single player.
That's my worry. That they're getting sort of numbers now where they can set you back a few years. If 150 million or whatever it might be on Vinny goes wrong, then next window you're struggling to, you're playing catch up. You're not going to be able to spend that money again, probably. Who knows? But especially when we can't sell any players. But
Well, look, I mean, people do back of the fag packet type maths with it, but it's all irrelevant. I mean, in terms of a commercial deal, I mean, we're talking about what works out on the pitch, right? So, I think Vinny pays for himself if we sign him. Whether it works out or not on the pitch is a separate matter. I just think if you're gonna go north of 100 million. And for all intensive purposes, Barcola, who's really the only other elite, debatable, but Nathan says it, I'll go with Nathan, elite alternative on the market at the moment. I think personally, lads, you may as well just go the whole hog for Vinícius. I just don't think it makes sense to. I think that's less of a gamble than Barcola is, unless my prediction about Musiala comes in. There is some logic behind Musiala, lads.
One of them's going to hit all these players, random players you're throwing out. One of them at one stage is going to sign.
What am I doing that Fabrizio Romano doesn't do, mate? What am I doing?
we might have like 100 episodes or so before next transfer window. If we're doing 2 a week, so
fucking seems like
all these. I'll just keep like a list of them
Arsenal
for you, and then one of them, if one of them hits, we'll go back to that episode, and you've called it.
And I just don't think he starts next year for Bayern Munich. I think Luis Diaz does. That's my point. I think if someone shows him a bit of love, they may want to cash in on him. So
there's definitely some logic to it.
That's all you need, mate, in the transfer window. It's silly season. That's all you need. All you need is fucking a story to make a little bit of sense, and that's it.
So why don't we bring Michael Elise to team up with his Bezzy mate Eze? Why don't we go and do that? I'll throw that right there.
Yeah, do it. Why not? I would love that to happen. It will never happen. But yeah, I
would. Dave, you've got to get involved as well, mate. You've got to have one outrageous transfer.
Why don't we just go to Madrid, drop like 600 million? We'll bring back Mbappe, Vinícius, and Bellingham or something. We might as well. If we're going in, we might as well go all in, aren't we?
I don't think Dave's taking this game seriously, Nathan.
At least we put some logic behind ours, mate.
He's not giving our journalism the respect it deserves. Okay.
Sorry. Well, on that, let's wrap it up there. Later this week, we'll be back to do the second part of our Emirates era podcast. We missed a week last week, just where the other episode went so long. But yeah, we'll be back doing that. So make sure you subscribe to get all the latest from those. So that first episode was a lot of fun to record. The second one's going to get a bit more cheery. We're doing some FA Cup wins and the end of Arsenal. So there'll be a lot of good stuff in there. Make sure you subscribe everywhere you listen and watch. Follow us on all the different social media places. We're everywhere at Clock End Taproom. Yeah, and that wraps up this week. Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
And we will see you next time.